Hello and welcome to this Astranti YouTube video series taking a look at our definitive guide to becoming a licensed conveyancer. This is going to be a 5-part video series looking at what a conveyancer is, what's the difference between a conveyancer and a legal executive and a solicitor, etc., how much licensed conveyancers earn, and the process of qualifying as a licensed conveyancer. Now, if you do like this video and you want to see more, you want to see the other videos in the series, I'm going to be putting 5 videos out for this particular series, please do like and subscribe, and also visit the website www.astranti.com for more information on becoming a licensed conveyancer and the courses that are available. So in this first video, I'm going to give an introduction into what a licensed conveyancer is and the importance of conveyancers to the housing market. Because, as I'm sure you are aware, the housing market is big business in the United Kingdom. In fact, it makes up 15 to 18% of the annual gross domestic product in the UK. So it is a huge part of industry in the UK. And, of course, there's always issues with it. You always hear things about the housing market. There's not enough houses. There's problems with planning permission. There's problems with listed buildings. Houses are too expensive. Landlords are charging too much rent, etc. And so it is big business in the legal sense as much as it is in the general sense. And conveyancers are at the forefront of the legal issues. It's undergoing a huge growth at the moment. Conveyancing is one of the fastest growing industries at the moment, and lots of legal firms are re-entering the market after having left. But the problem is there isn't enough conveyancers at the moment. A lot of conveyancing is done by qualified solicitors, solicitors that are already stretched quite thin because solicitors have a much larger breadth of knowledge, and solicitors are perhaps needed in other areas, needed for criminal law, needed for family law, employment law, etc. So what has happened in the last few years is there's been a real growth in qualified conveyancers. People that are specialists in doing the conveyancing side of the housing industry. And so, whilst a licensed conveyancer isn't necessarily on the same level from an overarching legal perspective and can do things that a solicitor can in other parts of the market, they are absolute specialists in conveyancing law. And there is huge demand for work in the conveyancing legal industry. So that's why becoming a qualified conveyancer might be a career path for you, might be a very lucrative one, might be one with lots of opportunity because there is such growth in this field at the moment. So what we're going to do is look at what a licensed conveyancer is and what the Council of Licensed Conveyancers is, which is the overarching body which regulates the conveyancing industry, regulates the licensed conveyancers. So the overall end goal, if you are looking to become a licensed conveyancer, is to become a member of the Council of Licensed Conveyancers. So let's take a look at what is a licensed conveyancer. What kind of work does a licensed conveyancer do? Well, licensed conveyancers are qualified legal professionals. So it's not just a job in the legal sector, you have a qualified legal professional status, and you specialize in property law, particularly the process of transferring property from one party to another. So for example, if you've ever purchased a house, you will have gone through conveyancing. You will have had to fill out lots of forms, you have to send lots of forms off to a conveyancer or a solicitor who will then do a lot of checks, arrange for visits to the property, to check the status of it, to check that you have the money available, to check that the seller isn't hiding anything from you, all those sorts of things. It's essentially a fancy term for buying, selling and transferring property. But it's not that simple. Of course, there are lots of things that you need to be aware of. You need to be aware of the law regarding land. You need to be aware of the law regarding property, law regarding insurance, law regarding what happens if someone was to then pass away whilst they still owed money on the property, all those sorts of things. So there's a lot for conveyancers to do, and they play a very important role within the housing market. So here is a list of the kinds of things that are typical roles, typical responsibilities of a licensed conveyancer. And again, this is not a completely exhaustive list. There are other things that you might be involved with doing. So the standard one would be your property transactions. Handling property transactions, that could be commercial properties, office buildings being purchased by businesses, could be residential, that's including where perhaps a family or an individual is buying a house, or it could also be where a professional landlord is purchasing property to let to tenants. So a conveyancer will facilitate the legal aspects of that transaction, making sure that everything is correct, everything is up to code. May also have to conduct title searches, which is where you're verifying the ownership, the legal status of a property. And this is basically to do with reducing fraud, to reduce the chances that someone is selling a property that they don't technically own, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems, to make sure that someone that is purchasing a property is not purchasing it with illegal funds, things like that. So there is a very legal, criminal law almost aspect to that, where you're basically at the forefront of reducing fraud in the property market. Now, of course, everything in the property market is to do with contracts for ownership, contracts for sale, contracts for tenants, contracts for easements over property, etc. So drafting and reviewing those contracts is also an important part of being a conveyancer, as is conducting due diligence on behalf of your clients and representing your clients, liaising with your clients. So this is very similar to what a solicitor would do, but it's more specific to just within the conveyancing market. So understanding the history of a property. What kinds of planning permissions are there on the property? Are there any environmental concerns that the seller is not telling the buyer? Is there a land that is perhaps falling apart, that is giving way, and within 10 years the property is going to collapse into the sea, for example, and the seller's not telling the buyer that, making sure you've conducted that due diligence. And also, what is quite unique about conveyancers, and is not done by solicitors as much in other fields of law, is the financial matters as well. So liaising with accountants, liaising with tax officials, etc., over exchanging contracts, making sure that any relevant taxes are paid, any relevant stamp duty is paid, and also liaising with the solicitors who will hold the funds in a solicitor account as it's moved between parties. So it's quite an expansive role, and it's a lot more than you might expect. It's not just like being an estate agent and going in and seeing, oh, here's a property, here's a contract for this property, can someone sign it? You have to do a lot of background work, a lot of due diligence around the sale, liaise with a lot of different parties, and draft a lot of different contracts. So quite an involved role, but one that is very rewarding. Ultimately, you're helping people to purchase properties, to start their families, to start their businesses, whatever it may be, making sure that they're not being scammed, making sure there's no fraud, etc. So quite an involved role within the legal profession, within the housing market, and as I mentioned, one that is booming at the moment. So if that does sound appealing to you, you may want to read on, you may want on the website, you may want to like and subscribe to see more of these videos about what licensed conveyancers do, how you can become a licensed conveyancer, how much licensed conveyancers earn. So please do like and subscribe, or visit the website www.astranti.com for more information, and stay tuned as we've got more videos coming up about what you actually need to do to become a licensed conveyancer. And I will also say that there is no better time to try to become a licensed conveyancer. The demand is sky high, the potential salaries are very high, and it's a very decent job within the legal field, and it's one that is perhaps has lower barriers to entry than becoming a solicitor. So if you are interested in becoming a qualified legal professional, but you find the costs or the limited availability of positions to become a qualified solicitor quite limited, and you're finding you can't enter that, then this might be a great alternative to enter the legal industry as a qualified legal professional. And most solicitors, but a lot of solicitors end up spending time doing conveyancing anyway, because there is a lot of solicitors and not necessarily a lot of the higher level work. So actually lots of solicitors find themselves doing conveyancing anyway. So if you qualify as a licensed conveyancer, that may be a great way for you to enter the market as a qualified legal professional more easily, more cheaply, and more quickly as well, as we will come on to in this video series. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video, where we're going to be looking at the differences between a solicitor and a licensed conveyancer.